Catholic. They said that they discriminated against us because we were interfaith marriage. And my sister's first communion, my grandmother from my Jewish side was ridiculed. And the Monsignor ridiculed her in front of everybody and said that she was wrong and that Jews were going to hell. And I want these people taxed. I want them to deserve this fear. And I reserve the remainder of my time for Delegate Taylor.
Lady reserves 1 minute.
I believe a common misconception with this rule, this proposal, is that taxes are automatically going to be taxed if this were to go into effect. In the proposal, it states that churches would be like all businesses. Any business has the right to apply as a non-profit. A church, if it can prove it is a non-profit, can apply as a non-profit and therefore not have to pay these taxes. We're also talking about how small churches will be destroyed. The Supreme Court has ruled, in fact, there's leading decisions that it is illegal to tax the destroyed. This proposal is not trying to destroy churches; it is simply trying to tax churches that will not, that are making a profit. It was mentioned the Westboro Baptist Church. Again, this is not attacking the church because their belief may be objectionable. The only reason why we tax church is because they're making a profit. I'd like to again reiterate, churches and any religious organization like the YMCA can still apply to be a non-profit and be exempt from taxes.
Fields Pierce, North Carolina. I'd like to reserve the right to yield the remainder of my time to Mr. McDonald of Arizona.
You have that right.
First, I'd like to say that the number of write-offs that these charitable organizations would have to conduct in order to get their money back is completely infeasible compared to the businesses. The businesses will have less than, 50 maybe charitable donations, where a church would have over 100. Now, the $1 trillion stat incorporated in his proposal is simply inaccurate due to the fact that these people will be writing off their charitable donations, so they will be getting this money back. Lastly, let's take a look. If we would like to take the tax-exempt status off the guilty, let's do it to the accused churches, not the ones that, quote, want to spread love and spread the word of God. Thank you. I yield the time to Mr. McDonald.
Gentleman yields 1 minute.
Thank you, my fellow delegate, and thank you, Mr. Chair. The way I see the legitimacy of this proposal is grounded in the idea that there are churches out there, by and large, that go beyond their charitable donations, their charitable status, and spend money on Lamborghinis or large houses for priests. Well, I'm sure this happens in some instances. I'm not sure about you guys, but I've been a member of 3 churches in my lifetime, one for 12 years, another for 3, and now a third one for 1, and continuing to be a member of that church. And these churches have to do a fundraiser every single year in the hundreds of thousands of dollars to maintain their church and to be able to pay their mortgage. And this would go outside of the non-taxable charitable donations, even though it's not going towards the Lamborghinis of the priest or the large house of the priest. And personally, I have a problem with that. I'd say if you're going to go after these hateful churches, if you're going to go after these corrupt churches that misappropriate their funds, do it one-on-one, do it personally. Don't do this proposal, which is a broad sweep that will harm both those churches and the ones that are doing the right thing, trying to maintain themselves while performing charitable donations. Thank you. You've remaining my time.
Shannon Reimers, Model UN. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I reserve my right to yield any remaining time to my fellow delegate, Savanji from New Mexico.
You have that right.
Excuse me, Minnesota. The biggest reason that I would be pro for this proposal is because I do think that the churches themselves sort of violate the concept of separation of church and state, and while this is very debatable, and whether they can actually do that, because it could be saying that it's a limit on the church's free speech to say that talking about certain social issues and encouraging people to vote a certain way. But I do believe that if they're being given tax-exempt status, to go out and tell their congregations to take an initiative or start an initiative to write letters to senators and representatives, encouraging them to vote certain ways, dealing with abortion and homosexual or gay rights, or any sort of big issue, I think is a violation of the gift that they've been given with their tax-exempt status. And unless they were to stop doing this, which there really is no way of regulating, which I understand is also a problem, then that's the only way I really think that they should be able to continue having their tax-exempt status. And I yield the remainder of my time to Minnesota.
Gentlewoman yields 30 seconds.
Mr. Chair, Sven Missa. I'm for this proposal only because when churches are taxed and their expenses are looked over, then we will be better able to find out which churches are using the money than we are now when they're not taxed and we can't see what their expenditures are. Like at my church, we have the small house for our priest, we have the church, and then we have a not-so-small cemetery. When the taxman looks over my priest's expenditures, he will see that he's not making...
Gentleman's time has expired.
Mason Hill, representing the Commonwealth of Kentucky. I would like to reserve my right to yield the remainder of my time to Delegate Parrott, also from Kentucky.
The gentleman has that right.
My fellow delegates, I rise in opposition to this proposal because of the First Amendment. You might think that is strange. The First Amendment would be for this proposal. However, that is not correct. The First Amendment is against this proposal. Separation of church and state is not only supposed to keep the church out of the government, it's supposed to keep the government out of the church. And this proposal puts the government directly in the church in several ways. Not only does it let the church leave it up to the government to define religious organization, which is an ambiguous term on where to draw the line, but it also discriminates against groups that want to gather to express religion, which is a matter of assembly, which is also protected under the Constitution. Finally, I would like to say that the First Amendment of the Constitution is not designed to protect the popular religions. It is designed to protect the religions which we fundamentally disagree with. The purpose of it is to say that there's a place for any person who has any belief in America. That is the reason why we have that amendment, and this proposal penalizes that amendment. I mean, I personally do not support exorbitant salaries for ministers. However, some congregations might. They might believe that. I have no problem with that. I personally don't agree with it, but the reason for that, the First Amendment, is to let congregations do that if they want to and not have to worry about persecution if they do. So with that, I would like to yield the remainder of my time to the delegate from Kentucky.
The gentleman yields 10 seconds.
Haley Pitt, representing the Commonwealth of Kentucky. The reason for this proposal going against is the prevention of church and state. The reason that this was originally put in place was not to keep the church out of the state, but was because this could make the effect of a church failing, which would then become a contractual bindment.
The gentlewoman's time has